Welcome to a new interview series called Talking to the Realm. I'm your host, Shim of CapturingSiege.com, and with me today is someone most should probably be familiar with, and if not, you should hop into his stream more. It's Rovaniik, the team captain and damage player for the Splice PPL team. So how are you today, Rovaniik?
I'm doing pretty good, man. Other than the fact that I'm tired after scrims, but
It's
we're
already
hanging
late
in there. We're
Yeah,
hanging in there.
yeah, it's late here. Thank you for showing up. Anyway, all right.
I do it for the fans,
Right,
That's why I'm
exactly. All right, so we're going to hop in. We're going to start from the very beginning. So most people already know, I just introduced you, so you're a part of Splice and you're the team captain. But we're going to talk a little bit about how you got into the Paladins scene and what you were doing before Paladins. I know we got that little Paladins world preview and the Splice preview a little bit, but tell me a little bit about what you were doing before you started Paladins.
I can go into a lot of detail. Pretty much, Mr. Interviewer here, used to play Smite rank with me. This asshole right here I seen from my face. Right, so me and him pretty much met in Smite rank. That wasn't really competitive before, but he got that competitive bone in me and played for what was it, like a year, dude, 2 or something. And then Paladins was in closed beta. You gave me a key, and I didn't really like it. I started playing during EV patch, but then over in Smite, the ADC meta was a thing, and I wasn't having fun with that, so I just came back to Paladins, and it was around the time that the DreamHack qualifiers were going around. So, pretty much stuck with Paladins after that. Really enjoyed the game.
Right, so you've been in competitive Paladins. You just said that you've been playing since the EV patch, and that EV patch that you're talking about is when EV had clones still. So,
yeah.
You've been in the game for a really long time, so, it's open beta right now, and you said that you had a key, so that means you've been here since the very early closed beta.
Closed beta, yeah.
Right, and you've been on a lot of teams. So
yeah, all of them have been self-made, though. So.
Exactly, you've been the captain of every one of them. So let's talk about those first Wiggly teams. What was it like back then, being in competitive Paladins?
I was shit, flat out. I'm pretty much new to FPSs. Been a console guy my whole life, so it was my first introduction to competitive anything, and I played ADC on that, and the first Wiggly team was just me and all friends, nobody from the scene. We all were new to the game, and I don't know. I eventually, that a lot of people from that team left, other than Zulu. Zulu kept playing the game, and the rest is history. We just kept playing the game, kept grinding, and eventually got to where I am now.
Speaking of Zulu, let's actually bring him up for a second. So you and Zulu have been playing together for a really long time. Can you go a little bit into your background with him?
Yeah, I met Zulu in middle school. Not gonna lie, I was scared of the guy. Guy was a fucking gorilla back in middle school. And I mean that in the nicest way. He had a bunch of hair and everything. He was years ahead of anyone in maturity levels. But whatever. Didn't really talk to him in middle school. Then high school, I think one of my friends introduced me to him, and we started talking and whatever. Became best friends all throughout high school. Did a bunch of stuff. Paladins came out. He got a key as well, along with my other friends. But Zulu was really the only other one that stuck with me, and we've been on pretty much every team together other than Impact. So that was the only time we had some time apart, and that was only for a couple months really. But pretty much every team I've ever been on, Zulu's been on. So yeah.
Okay, so you brought up that Impact team. And let's do a little contrast with the old Wiggly teams. So that was the first time that you really branched off of from your own reservation. All the teams that you had before that were Wiggly, self-made, self-taught, everything. So how was that transferring into a team where you didn't have your friend Zulu there?
I think it was another Wiggly, but this wasn't actually the first time I didn't have a hand in creating the team. It was actually Corvinor that did it, but I played with Corvinor in the past and whatever, and he was making a team for the summer while he wasn't in college and whatever, and I wasn't having any luck finding any teammates. This was after the Masters LAN.
Right.
After my disastrous BK play. But
we'll talk about that.
Yeah, I'll bring that up later. But anyways, yeah, it was really hard to just find a team. I did try out for Impact, but I guess Paltech never hit me up or whatever. No hard feelings in that regard. So Core was making a team. I just decided to join that team while Zulu was doing his own thing. Obviously, I'm not going to pull him away from Impact, and Impact was really successful at the time. So it was no reason for me to take that away from them or anything.
Right, and you guys have been on teams now still. So You brought up the Wiggly Tag again. Everyone always wants to know. What does Wiggly mean? What's the story?
Oh, okay. Well, this goes back to Zulu actually. Um, yeah, Zulu and me know each other in real life. So like one day we go to the buffet, it's me and another friend, whatever. Not the greatest buffet, obviously. It's like, yeah, it's not the best stuff you can have. Like the sushi, the sushi is the entire story. So Zulu gets whatever, a piece of sushi or whatever, puts it in his mouth. I'm like, oh, hey Zulu, because I want to know how the sushi tastes. I was like, yeah, Zulu, how does the sushi taste? He's like, oh, I don't know, dog. It tastes kind of woogly. And I'm like, the fuck? All right, woogly, I guess, right? So that's kind of where the octopus comes from, because the sushi, seafood, and all that. So we kind of took it from that. But we were like thinking up the team names, and I brought up that story to Core, and he found it really funny, and we just used Woogly back then. Pretty much every time I've been on an unsponsored team, it's always gone back to Woogly and that squid. And yeah, I think most people by now know what Woogly is, at least the other pros and all that. So yeah, that's pretty much where that comes from.
Right, it's a good story actually. The whole thing with that Wiggly, I mean, it goes back to Zulu again. So you guys are on a team right now. How's that dynamic treating you guys? You guys have been friends for a very long time. How is it working? Because it is a job at this point. So how is it working with someone that you've been so close with?
I think me and Zulu, like the reason why it works that we're always on teams is when we're playing, we treat it as a job and not. Obviously, we're friends, we joke around while playing, but he understands that. Well, we both understand that it is our job, so we have to respect one another in that regard. We're not really friends, we can't really side with one another on something. Like if I do something stupid and he lets me know, like I have to, just take it. We're not gonna go be soft on one another because we're friends. At the end of the day, we're both trying to win. So that's why that relationship always ends up working out, and why I like playing with him so much.
Yeah, you guys have been playing together for a really long time. Especially, I mean, we'll go back to it right now. So one of the major accomplishments in your career so far has been the qualification to the Masters LAN. You brought up the actual Masters LAN as like a mile. You're like, haha, my wonderful BK play at Masters LAN, and everyone knows the story about that. And we'll talk about that in a bit. But the qualification period is what I'd like to talk about first. So like the story coming out of the qualification period was about your Bomb King play practically carrying to the LAN, and this was before. This was during that whole period where Bomb King was starting to become the best character and everyone was starting to see how good he was, and you really pushed the meta on Bomb King. So can you tell me about that little qualification period?
Yeah, I mean, I've been playing BK since he was released, and he was always like a character that I wanted to learn, and the one I found the most fun. When he first came out, I obviously wasn't the best at BK, but I just kept at him, and at some point he fell out of the meta. I don't know why or whatever. I just kept playing the character, and for a while I was the only one playing him in both regions. And eventually, I think one time when we were on AGG during the qualification period, we beat back then what was I don't know if they were Cryptic or Odin shows it, whatever. Cuss QD and the boys.
Right.
We ended up going to game 5 and beating them in that. Actually, I think it was was it a best of 3? No, I think it was a best of 5. We ended up going to the 5th game and beating them out, and all 3 games that we beat them, I was on BK. Every other time, we didn't beat them or whatever. So yeah, like I was just playing the guy when nobody else was playing him, and I was the only one making him work, so much so that I got messages for a couple of the European players asking why I played the character, stuff like that, and that felt pretty good. But then eventually, Hyros decided to make him accessible to everybody by fixing ping issues or whatever, and it kind of messed around with me. I was kind of used to playing him, but everyone else seemed to pick them up pretty quickly, and it was I had to adjust to it because I had been playing him one way for a long time, so it was I think it was more difficult on me, but yeah.
So, I mean, if we're going to talk about Bomb King of the past, I want to compare it to the future. We just got this recent patch where they seem to fix some of the issues that the Bomb Kings were having, and on your current team, we haven't seen the Bomb King as much as we'd like to in the past. I mean, if we're fans of the Bomb King here, so anything you can tell us about this new Bomb King? How's it playing for you?
It feels like pre-Masters LAN, honestly. They fixed a lot of what was wrong with him. Mostly my bombs going away, because sometimes I would sticky a guy and then I throw another sticky and I want to detonate that one in the air, but that one then disappears, and then there's lack of damage there, and stuff like that. And sometimes the bombs wouldn't detonate like right after you stick, so you'd have to click twice. So feels good, man.
Does that mean we're
Excited
going
to
to see it? Are we going to see it?
If it doesn't get banned away, dude, I'm down to play him.
Oh, yeah. That's what we all really wanted to hear. All right. So we talked about the qualification process. We talked about the carry. Now we got to bring up the actual LAN. So you guys ended up 5th through 8th place. A valiant showing, really, but
Yeah, for sure.
you ultimately failed.
Won the coin toss, you know?
Right,
the
exactly.
thing that guaranteed the win.
Right, exactly. 50-50, you won out that way. So can you tell me about that Masters LAN? It was your first ever LAN experience, so tell me about it.
Hands were shaking. I was nervous. I can't talk about the other team if they were nervous. I never really got around to asking them. I think as a team as a whole, we didn't perform well, but it was the BK LAN, and I think that's why I get a lot of, a lot of things thrown my way, because it was the BK LAN. You're expected to do really well on the BK LAN, even though BK didn't end up winning the whole thing. I mean, Bugsy played Drogas and beat out the BK, but still, I was supposed to pick BK. We won the coin toss. We were like, all right, we're getting BK. I don't know. It was a combination of nerves, and it was a combination of team play not being that well. But god damn, I don't know who was playing the Buck. I think it was probably Spunky, or unless Spunky was on support at that time. But whoever was on that Buck, man, he just kept jumping on me. Didn't let me do BK things. So there were some nerves there. In addition, during the LAN, I discovered that at 0 ping, it was more like 5 ping, but in a LAN environment, I had to right click twice. And I don't know if it's fixed for this LAN because they fixed it, right? They fixed it this time. So I'm hoping for this, whenever our next LAN is, that doesn't happen again. But yeah, having to click twice to blow up my bombs didn't help me at all.
Right. I mean, that's going to be a pretty big major issue in your Bomb King play. But let's talk a little bit about that LAN specifically as an esports event. We saw in the very last bit, we saw Bugsy went out, as you said, in that Drogos. So what do you think about Paladins esports from that LAN prior to now? It seems like that Masters LAN was the big turning point where we see Wisa joining. What are your thoughts on that process of turning Paladins into an esport?
I gotta give it up to, actually, that LAN was it didn't do well viewership wise. I don't think as much as Hi-Rez wanted to, but the following LAN, the Valencia one, the one that for DreamHack, that pulled in a lot of numbers. It beat out Smite, in terms of viewership. So I think that's when Hi-Rez really started pushing for Wisa to come in. On top of that, the partnership that Hi-Rez has with Facebook, I'm not really going to talk about that,
right.
But that got Wisa's attention, I'm sure. Hi-Rez, once they saw the numbers, that's when they really start pushing Paladins esports, and I'm more than happy to ride along with the wave of Paladins esports, and
Right, now you can ride that wave. I mean, but you're really showing up here with your Splice team. How did it feel getting picked up by that first team? It's your first major organization. How did it feel getting picked up like that?
Dude, best thing ever. All this Corsair gear? Are you kidding me? It's awesome. It's a good feeling to have. I get to fully commit to just playing the game. It feels pretty good. I mean, no complaints so far. Now, if we could just get a win under our belt, then I'd be a happy man. But no complaints so far.
Right, that'll come with time. So, I mean, letting the viewer in, you talked about it earlier. We've known each other for a very long time, and I've known that you've wanted to be a competitive player for a very long time. So, how is it to realize this dream that you've had since I met you in Bronze Smite play? You've always wanted
the Bronze days,
right?
Yeah.
We were Bronze Smite players. So, just talk how does it feel to finally achieve that goal?
Fulfilling. It feels. I don't know. I don't want to say it took longer than expected, but yeah. I don't know. It's a little bit, yeah. It just took this Valencia LAN for Hi-Rez to do well in viewership, and then them to push it really, because before it was kind of unless you were winning everything, it wasn't too sustainable, I would say. So I mean, shout out to Hi-Rez for finally letting my dream come true. I guess fulfilling's the word that I like to use.
That's a good word then. All right, so now we're going to talk about the current Splice roster as is constructed right now. So the current team, you are the team captain. So tell me about how this specific roster was formed and how you created it and how I assume that you have a lot of input into the roles. So how did that go?
Sure. I guess the easiest way to start it with is just talk about like Zulu and MV. Pretty much, Zulu and MV previously to joining Splice. Well, I guess they joined Wiggly at the time. Then we got picked up by Splice. They were on Impact, and at the time, like during the very early stages of Impact's career, they were doing really well. But then towards the tail end of it, they weren't doing good at all. You know, they were losing every scrim, and they weren't really doing well in tournaments. So eventually, you know, I wanted to join that Impact roster, and I kept trying, but you know that wasn't happening. For whatever reason, I don't know. You'd have to ask like Paltech or something. To be fair to him, I only played Week at the time, and not even as well as I did pre-Masters Land, so understandable. But whatever. Yeah, Zulu and Envy were on that roster, and Zulu was easier because you know he's my friend, so I was able to convince him to come over. Because the current Splice roster, like I had to go through so many changes during that old Wiggly, like you know, it took a bit for it to be what it is now. But yeah, when it got Zulu, Envy was kind of on the fence with joining. He was trying out different teams, but you know, he decided to stick with the current roster. Actually, before I even brought in Zulu and Killer or Zulu and Envy, I had Killer, and I thought Killer was really cool. Like he was playing damage at the time, but I just found him to be a really cool guy with like a lot of passion. So I always wanted to keep him around. And, sort of shifted him to support when Envy came through because I knew Envy was a really good damage player at Impact. You know, really smart and all that. Zulu came in for tank, and then the story of Amos was what's now Envy used to be Swarm. They dropped Amos, and Amos was looking for a new team, and Amos talked to Envy about possibly joining what was in the Wiggly roster. And yeah, eventually once Envy like confirmed he's gonna stick with us, then Amos came in, and you know, that's pretty much the story of the Splice roster and how the roles came to be.
Okay, so before we move on to more Splice topics, you brought it up there. You're a BK main. I want to talk about this. Your role has changed throughout this game. I mean, you said it right there. You're a BK main, and now a lot of people that I talk to on a regular basis tend to think of you as someone who can play a lot of characters. How did you develop that skill? Not a lot of people can do it.
Who said that?
A lot of people are saying it, man. That's the chatter.
They're saying it, man. Shout out to those. Hey, man. Nah, I joke about it, but yeah, I do tend to play anything that's needed. But I don't want to like play it at a competitive level. Like, let's say I'm playing rank with you, dude. I'll play whatever I can fill, I suppose, if I trust you enough with the role. But in a competitive level, I always want to play my damages, and I just have a lot of hours. Honestly, it's just like my tags are really high mastery levels. Like I'm looking at it here. It's just putting in a bunch of hours, and I don't understand every character perfectly, but I can play at least one character from every role pretty well. You know.
Right, that gives you a lot of flexibility.
Yeah, exactly, for sure.
Let you do stuff.
But recently I started, you know, branching out of the BK, trying to focus on these other damage characters and really just like narrowing it down to a couple characters that I'll play and grind, and those are the characters I'm focusing on, because it's nice to like be able to play all these different characters. But you know, what's that one phrase that goes? That thing like where you can do everything but master of none. Trades. Jack of all trades, master of none. Exactly. Yeah. Right. So like, yeah, I don't really want to be a jack of all trades anymore. I want to be a master of the specific champions that I need to play, and that's it, you know. And then after once those characters become like BK, where they're just ingrained into my brain, then I can start branching out to those other characters.
All right. Well, let's go back to the Splice topic. So you're the captain of the team, and you keep yourself at a high level individually. How do you balance that role between being the captain and having strategy and also keeping your individual skills up?
A lot of alt-tabbing in between games, I guess. like if I get a Discord message and I'm playing in the middle of like a casual, I just alt-tab and DM the person back or whatever. Now I have a dual monitor setup. Maybe it'll make my life 10 times easier, but yeah, like it's pretty much all it is. if I have to do something out of the way more special, I guess I have to put time aside for that. I don't know. I don't want to like blame it like being team captain, because it's not the most difficult thing, but like it does take some time out of your day, like when you could just be playing the game. But yeah, maybe I don't focus like 100% in the casual game I'm with somebody in, or a ranked game. It's just I'm all tabbing, dude. I'm reading my Discord messages. I'm setting up scrims, whatever. You know,
Right.
maybe it's not the best way to go about it, but it works. It works for me.
Get an assistant. Yeah, that'd be good.
Yes.
That'd be easy.
Yeah, exactly.
So on this Splice team, the strategy that you guys are trying to work with in scrims, who's developing that? Is that you, or is that someone else, or is it a conjunction?
Amos really talks a lot out of game, not so much in the game, but he comes up with a lot of the stuff we do outside of the game. When it comes to in the game, me or Envy can call like positions of what we're taking. Sometimes it really depends on the mood I'm in, dude. Like, I get pretty tired around the nighttime. It's mostly has to do with my sleep schedule. We'll work on that.
Right.
But if I'm in a good mood, I'll call up positionings of where we should be from the start, and then after that, it's more reactionary. Zulu does a really good job of calling targets, and I'll supplement it with different calls like positioning of the enemy team, or I'll pick up some of the calls on what to focus or something. But primarily, if Zulu's on a target, that target is what he's calling. Or if he sees a target out of position, that's what we're killing or whatever, stuff like that. But yeah, pretty much other than that, like Amos does a lot with helping us with our positioning. After the game, he'll say where we should have been, and we work with that. And recently, we got a unofficial coach. He hasn't been announced or anything yet, but he's in his trial period. He's been helping us a lot, so yeah.
All right, so this is a question more general to the competitive esports side of Paladins. When you walk into a pick ban phase, is there some general? Are you guys League of Legendsing it where we're picking these specific characters if they're open, or is it more of a reactionary based on what the enemy team picks also?
It's also very map specific, I'd say. It's like, Paladins is a game where like you have multiple different maps. It's not a MOBA where you're always playing the same 3 lanes, same jungle, whatever. But yeah, other than the map, it's we obviously look for stuff that we're comfortable with, because every team has their god draft, where they get if they get these certain champions, they have their best draft possible to towards that team specifically. Obviously, you get to know the other pro players and what they like to play, so you have to keep that in mind when drafting. Whether you ban that character or you have something planned to counter that character. But I think the team works best when it just drafts what it wants and what it does well on. Not so much focused on what they're doing, but focus on our game.
All right, a question about the whole esports as a cohesive unit between all the teams. Are there any rivalries, any hidden things that we don't actually see on the surface play out? Do all the teams generally like each other?
I mean, there's obviously like comments here and there.
You don't have to name names, just
no, of course not. It's not crazy. It's not crazy, BM. It's not like how it used to be at the early days of Paladins, where there's way more shit talk. Like everybody knows cuss like BMs and crap, but he doesn't do it as much as he used to, if any at all. Like he's been really good about it. So like, sorry for like calling out cuss, but like he knows, everybody knows. It's whatever. It's cuss. Like who cares? Like I personally find it hilarious, like when he does stuff like that. But yeah, in terms of like rivalries between the teams, of course it's there. Like certain people have certain things against other people, but it's not. We're not like calling each other out 24/7. It's like nobody hates one another. At least I hope not. Not from my understanding.
right in the back alley channels of the Paladins esports Discord.
Yeah, sure. Like, yeah, everybody talks behind everybody else's back. Whatever. That's just life, bro. Like,
yeah, that's how game work.
Yeah, it's whatever, bro. Like, just play the game. I guess at the end of the day, whatever.
So we got this major division between the two major regions that we have so far, EU and NA. But around that, we have these regions developing in the Australian scene and the Brazilian scene. How do you think? Have you seen anything of those regions that are a warning sign to come?
China, man. I mean, China and Kanga over in Oceania. Those are like the tougher ones, right? China made it to finals in the DreamHack thing, and I think they went to Game 5 with Australia, like Kanga, and it was like a 3-3. I think so. So I mean, outside of NA and EU, it's definitely Oceania and China. Those are like the toughest contenders. Don't want to run into those guys for sure. But other than that, Lamb hasn't done extremely well, and neither has Southeast Asia either. So they haven't really proven themselves as much as these other regions have.
So these Chinese teams that you're talking about, the Chinese and Australian team, we're seeing this build up from the Chinese team, and they kind of came out of nowhere. And a lot of casual spectators of the game wouldn't have really thought at this early in the game the Chinese team would be this developed. But when you see the Chinese teams like this, do you think it's just EU and NA on top, or do you think that the Chinese region as a whole could get up to where NA is specifically, NA and EU?
I think China just had one really good draft. And that's it. They just kept running throughout the whole tournament. You saw it like throughout the whole thing. They just kept getting their Torv and their Buck, and if they didn't get Buck, they went BK. And obviously they had champions in case those were taken away. But while I do think China's really good, I think they're only good at the one thing, and like EU, Oceania never took it away from them. And then like the team that ended up winning the whole thing, Team Cryptic, what is now G2. They took away the Torvald. Like nobody else did. Like every other team was just stubborn and just kept playing how they wanted to play instead of just being like, okay, guys, we know that China's going to do this. Let's take it away. See if it works for us. And if it works for us, awesome. You saw China start to crumble once their stuff got taken away. So, but Oceania's just good. Like Oceania they have multiple metas that they can run, multiple drafts that they can run. So I think they're the stronger of the two. It's just China had their one thing going for them, and they just kept running it. So yeah.
Speaking of metas, then we have this specific meta that's happening right now. This double tank and healer 2 damage meta, the 2-2-1 that we're seeing, and we're seeing a little bit more flank with the buffs to Maven, Andro, and I guess Lex. Maybe we'll see him soon. But what would be your ideal meta for Rovaniik?
Like what? Like
what,
the classes I would like to see.
Right. What would you like to see the most of?
Dude, pre Masters Land, three damage, 1 tank, 1 healer. Let's go. We're fragging, boys.
Oh, that whole frag build.
The frag fest, the 3 damages, the 1 tank, and the 1 support. That's all I need. Like that 1 tank, whatever. Just have them there for point or whatever. Let the three of us like just fight it out with the other 3 fraggers, and whoever has the better fraggers wins. I think that's pretty cool.
In your opinion, how can we go back to that? I mean, I know you're not a balanced dev, but you're a pro player. All pro players have an idea of how we can get back to their favored meta.
I think during that meta, there was only like 2 good tanks. So I don't think we'll ever go back to that meta, just because you never want to be in a meta where only 2 characters from a class are good. It's just, I don't think we'll ever be able to go back to it, just with the way tanks are now. They have a lot of health, they do a lot of damage, and they provide a lot for the team that a damage just simply can't. Not that I hate the meta right now, it's just I think it'd be fun to go back to 3 fraggers. But yeah, unless they like really mess up the tank balance and make 2 tanks really stand out from the rest, and the rest are just considered garbage, then I don't think we'll ever go back to that.
Right. The thing we don't want to see is triple tank meta ever. Like that's the thing that we never want to see.
No. Although it is kind of happening in EU.
You think so?
Oh, I know so. Well, I mean, on Saturday, last Saturday, from where whenever you post this,
right.
Yeah,
whatever. October,
week
30th.
one of the
right.
The Paladins Premier League. There you go. That on the EU they ran triple tank here and there, but they also ran 3 DPS sometimes, and it worked both ways. I don't know if it just has to do with those teams being leagues above the others, but I mean, it worked, I guess. So, I mean, you can still change up the meta.
All right, let's get some bitter rivalries going. I know how the EU-NA blood goes. How do you think NA stacks up against EU?
Well, according to the Valencia one, NA's out top right now. I don't know, man. I think NA's going to come out on top, definitely. Like we see like Renegades taking out G2, and G2 just won the Valencia thing. Although I think G2 is going to come back way stronger. G2 tends to do this thing where they like, I don't know if I want to say underestimate or like underperform, but they do it for like a week, and then the rest of the time they go back to being normal G2. They figure their shit out, and once everything's nice and clean, G2 always comes back stronger. I'm not sure if they face Renegades this upcoming week, but yeah, I can't. If they do, I can't wait to see the rematch there. But I think it'll show how strong the NA region is if G2 takes it back and all that thing.
That's a direct call out to all the EU players. You heard it. You heard it.
Damn, dude.
It's all good.
They're gonna come after me now.
Nah, you'll just show them.
I just go to land, whatever. I'll be like, "What's up, boys? Here for the BK round 2. Let's go."
So, jumping the gun a little bit, but this whole PPL system is leading up to like quite a year for Paladins eSports. What do you see in the direct future for both Splice and for Paladins as a whole?
Direct future. I don't know. More LAN events, I suppose. That's always nice, right? As for Splice, I think I don't even want to say like roster swaps or anything. I think I want to keep the team I have now for sure. Obviously, if changes have to happen, they have to happen. But I mean, the org's been treating us really well. Obviously, you're always looking to get more out of it. So I mean, if I get to keep representing Splice and I keep I can represent them really well in like LANs and online events, obviously we'll go up there. As for like Paladins as a whole, like more LANs, more chances to earn money. I think content creators need to come out more. There's not really a lot of content out there. I mean, I think the biggest two are like Danny and Slowsy, and they're on the same team, so I think it'd be pretty cool to see more content creators. I think that's the area we're lacking in, and definitely the future Paladins is Facebook. That's where all the stuff's going to be streamed. So really expanding that platform, making it's going to be hard to take people from Twitch over to Facebook, but like I think we can do it if enough of the pro players tweet it out, if enough content creators are pushing the league, stuff like that. That's really what we have to do, and that we have to all come together for that to happen. But yeah.
All right, so we're gonna wrap it up. It's pretty late at your area right now, so we're about to head out. Do you have anything you'd like to end on, or anything you'd like to say to your fans?
Yeah, man. I'm looking to redeem myself pretty much. Randy's always talking about it. I gotta show up for the boy Randy, and I gotta show up for the fans.
Oh, one last question. When's the stream coming out? When's the schedule coming out? When's the schedule coming out?
What's the schedule? Give me like halfway through October. I'll have something out at that point. Right. Anybody that knows me, I'm shitty at keeping a schedule consistently. I'm always told like, hey, if you had a consistent schedule, I'm sure you'd be a top streamer. I'm like, yeah, but I don't do that, dude. So,
all right.
I think once I get myself a schedule, I think I'll be good to go.
It's October 5th. This will release pretty soon. So if around October 20th we don't get a schedule, you can come back to this video and you can at Rovaniik and his YouTube channel and his Twitter. You tell him that he needs to post a schedule.
Damn, guess I'm off to block some people. No, I'm kidding.
All right. Well, thank you for coming on, Rovaniik. You guys can catch him on his Twitch account where he will be regularly streaming. Twitch.tv/Rovaniik, and his Twitter is at
Twitch.tv/Rovaniik TV.
Rovaniik TV, and his Twitter is at Rovaniik. So thanks again for coming on, and we'll talk to you guys later.